Hey guys, tonight we embark on a journey back to the 12th century, where the air is filled with the scent of incense and the echoing calls to prayer. Imagine the vibrant streets of Tikrit, where bustling marketplaces are alive with chatter. You probably won't survive this tale unscathed by curiosity. You'll meet a young boy named Yusuf ibn Ayyub, who with fate's whispers comes to be known as Saladin. Before we dive into his story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Do post your location and local time, as I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Barely grazed by the whispers of time, you stand on the dusty lanes of Tikrit. It's a humble beginning for a boy like Yusuf, whose heart beats with an ambition as vast as the desert itself. His father, Najm al-Din Ayyub, was once an influential governor, a role that instilled in young Saladin the virtues of leadership and resilience. Little did anyone know these formative years, filled with the gentle lull of riverbeds, the rustle of palm leaves would shape him into a man whose name would echo far beyond these meandering streets. As you walk along in his footsteps, you realize Tikrit was just the beginning. Military prowess wasn't in his blood alone. It was in the air he breathed. People talk about the incident where he and his family were forced to flee Tikrit. You might think such an event would shake him, but it's just the opposite. Historians still debate whether it was divine providence or sheer luck that guided his family safely to Mosul, where young Saladin's journey would truly begin. In Mosul, a young Yusuf found himself mesmerized by the disciplined clatter of swords, unsheathing the strategic formations of soldiers and the palpable sense of duty. The court of Zengi, the Atabeg of Mosul, became a new home, a place where he could cultivate his strategic mind and learn the art of governance. Imagine soaking in the wisdom that floats like the lazy swirl of hookah smoke amid the strategists at court. It was here that Saladin formed lasting alliances with bonds, forged over shared ideals and common goals. His strength was not only in his sword arm, but in his ability to unite people with a vision of a greater good. And as he matured, so too did his ambitions, but not with reckless haste. Rather, with the patience of an artist painting his masterpiece stroke by deliberate stroke. Serving under his uncle, the shrewd and ambitious Shirkuh, in several campaigns across Egypt, Saladin began to distinguish himself. In the eyes of his peers, here was a leader, even if he didn't yet claim the title. But Egypt, the rich, fertile land by the Nile, was a complex tapestry of political intrigue, ripe with opportunity, yet fraught with danger. When Shirkuh passed from this world, Saladin was appointed as Vizier to the Fatimid Caliph. A Sunni and a Shia court, his appointment raised many an eyebrow and suspicion among those who doubted his loyalty. Yet it wasn't long before he charmed his way through the political maze, winning allies and warding off ill wishes with his unparalleled diplomacy and strategic acumen. Surprisingly for a soldier, there's a gentle grace in his leadership. His was an era when one could turn the tide of history not just by battles won, but by cooperation fostered. Saladin's rise in Egypt saw him consolidate his power not through brute force alone, but by laying foundations of unity and reconciliation among the fractured factions. Yet intriguingly, he maintained an unshakable loyalty to the Ayyubid cause, constantly mindful of his ultimate goal, a unified Islamic state pushing back the crusading forces threatening their lands. What historians find perplexing is the almost serendipitous manner in which pieces fell into place for Saladin. Was it sheer ambition, calculated strategy, or divine favor that placed the reins of Egypt within his grasp, maneuvering around rival fiefdoms like chess pieces on life's grand board? Perhaps it was all these. As you sit with curiosity whetted, the path continues to unveil itself further, leading you next into the labyrinth of power, strategy, and human spirit that defined Saladin's life beyond the sands of Egypt. Quiet the rustling of the world around you as this story continues to unfold, inching closer to a world where histories known and unknowns mesh into a tapestry of tales and truths. Here unfolds a narrative, much like a river, charting its course through consequence and destiny. It feels as though a gentle breeze is stirring across great stretches of sand and stone, carrying with it the echoes of powerful footsteps and the rustle of ambition weaving through time. You find yourself drawn into the heart of an unfolding saga, in a land where golden deserts meet verdant oases, where Egypt and Syria are more than just maps. They are the lifeline of a man's immense vision. As orchestrator of destiny, you watch Saladin stand under the high infinite sky, his eyes sharp with a unique blend of gentleness and steel survey the land he is set to unify. He is the Sultan who would bring Egypt and Syria together, crafting a fortress-wide platform from where the tides of history might shift. You appreciate how Saladin, in his quiet yet firm manner, begins his monumental task of uniting Egypt, a land like a coiled serpent poised with secretive strength, its length adorned with the fertile embrace of the Nile, with the contrasting rocky landscapes and ancient cities of Syria. Saladin employs both wisdom and strategic prowess. Perhaps historians argue about his methods. Were they more sword than word, or vice versa? A question left to the wind. Nevertheless, you can sense his earnest resolve, as layers of trust and connections are forged within and across borders. Within the bustling markets of Cairo, you catch snippets of conversations, tradesmen discussing spices, silks, and sometimes politics. It's here Saladin consolidates support, like a weaver tightening threads into a sturdy tapestry. Yet an unexpected preoccupation of his stands out: his penchant for poetry, a detail that surprises many. Tales recount how he owned a collection of poems penned by Persian poets, their verses whispered by the Nile's edge under moonlit nights. Syria offers its own mosaic of challenges. Its cities are storied realms of ancient grandeur, each with a unique pulse. You walk through Damascus, its air heavy with the scent of orange blossoms. Imagine winding along the trade routes where caravans haul cotton and stories in equal measure. Here, Saladin's kinship network plays its role. His brothers and confidants act as extensions of his will, fortifying alliances in ways that glint like Damascus steel, firmly aligned yet beautifully ornate. You feel the vastness of his task. It's as if he's carving from rock and sand a unified territory poised to challenge the encroachments of the Crusader states. Such contemplation reminds you of the vast amphitheaters of the Roman world, where expectation and ambition crowded alongside strategy and destiny. Saladin's governance, too, doesn't escape your notice. It is often described as fair, infused with a sense of justice that draws followers like moths to a gentle flame. Still, debates surface among historians, swirling around whether his policies were purely pragmatic or fueled by genuine altruism. Regardless, the impact pulses through time as governance principles echo in the regions long past his era. As the landscape alters seamlessly from desert horizons to crowded souks, you become acutely aware of Saladin's complexity. Here was a ruler both feared and revered. He understood the importance of symbol and spectacle, of galloping banners across sun-baked skies, and the necessity of diplomacy in the shadows of castle walls. Historians often ponder the largesse of Saladin's spirit. He kept his friends close, yes, but brought former enemies sometimes even closer through acts of unexpected generosity. At one point, he reportedly sent sherbet ice to Richard the Lionheart during the lengthy Third Crusade, a move that might have chilled the rather heated temperaments in more ways than one. But as you traverse through this narrative, webbed with Saladin's life, you feel akin to a leaf carried by a stream's gentle current. It's restful, yet enriching, allowing the world's noises to recede and true rest to enfold you, just as Saladin's vision sought to enfold Egypt and Syria into a cohesive unity. In doing so, he sets the stage for the monumental efforts that lie ahead against the Crusader states, shaping not just land, but the future paths of myriad lives. This is where you find yourself, amid the rhythm of history's heartbeat, lulled by the soft cadence of time's endless loom, weaving new stories against the tapestry of night, even as you dream. Inside the walls of the Crusader kingdom, as you wander through the cobbled streets of Jerusalem, you can almost feel the tension in the air, an invisible taut string that vibrates with every whispered conversation. The sun sets over the ancient city, casting long shadows across stone buildings, making them appear like silent sentinels standing guard over this embattled kingdom. But all is not well within the hearts of these stone giants. You walk past the bustling market, where merchants peddle their goods, putting on their most convincing smiles despite the hard times. Economic strain is evident here. The coins in your pocket, while heavy, seem inadequate for the needs that stretch out before you. Prices have risen like the hot air balloons of modern times, and trade routes once flowing freely are now choked with obstacles and fees imposed by those on both sides of the conflict. As you navigate the crowded alleys, you're soon swept into the stories of political intrigue that swirl around the court of King Baldwin IV. It's a kingdom where alliances are as fragile as a soap bubble drifting on a summer breeze. The courtiers whisper about hidden plots, each word dripping with the honey of betrayal. King Baldwin, young and suffering from leprosy, is a figure of both sorrow and strength, trying to hold this fragile kingdom together. His condition a subject of hushed tones among the populace only adds to the uncertainty of the kingdom's future. Historians still debate whether the infighting between the nobles and factions of the kingdom catalyzed the weakening of Jerusalem's defenses, or if it was the combined pressure of external threats and internal strife. Inside the castle's shadowed halls, you overhear snatches of heated arguments between those vying for control, each convinced of their righteousness and oblivious to the looming crisis that requires unity rather than division. The sound of metal clinking draws your attention to a group of knights gathered near the stables. Their armor, once gleaming, now shows signs of battle and wear. These soldiers of fortune, sworn to protect the Holy Land, face their own struggles with dwindling supplies and low morale. You marvel at the courage it must take to continue fighting under such circumstances, the weight of their armor only surpassed by the burden of their duty. And yet in all this chaos, there are moments of surprising solidarity. You stumble upon a small chapel where people from all walks of life gather in prayer, their collective worries momentarily put aside as they seek solace in shared faith. It's a rare moment of unity where differences fall away in the face of a common hope for peace. As you walk back towards the city's gates, you hear a story of an unusual alliance between a local merchant and a Muslim trader pooling their resources to maintain vital trade routes. It's these small acts of cooperation that offer glimmers of hope amidst the turmoil, like a single star shining brightly in a stormy sky. Although Jerusalem's defenses seem fragmented and vulnerable, there is still a resilience that courses through the veins of the city. Just as the walls stand firm against the desert winds, so too do the people continue to endure and adapt, finding ways to carry on, despite the odds stacked against them. The soft whispers of the evening in Jerusalem are a comfort, a gentle reminder that even in times of strife, life continues its course. You move among the people, becoming part of their stories, part of a history that is still being written. As the sun finally slips below the horizon, taking the day's heat with it, you let out a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding, feeling the cool night air wrap around you like a comforting shroud. With the city settling into its nocturnal rhythm, you feel the soft hum of life around you and begin to fade into a restful slumber, much like Jerusalem itself, standing as it always does, a beacon of resilience in a world of endless challenges. With the soft golden glow of dawn spilling over the distant horizon, you find yourself walking along a dusty path, nestled between gently undulating hills. The world is quiet around you, a silence that speaks of an uneasy peace in the air. This is a place where truths and promises hang by the slenderest of threads, woven intricately among the decisions of men. As you trail your fingers through the warm morning air, you can almost hear the whisper of something fragile threatening to break. Welcome to the delicate balance of a truce held together by mere words till ambition and restlessness unfurl beneath them. The sun casts long shadows behind you, as if reminiscing about the past night's tales. In the soft light, you catch a glimpse of Reynald, a man whose desires seem to run like wild horses through the open plains. His eyes, set with a mischievous gleam, betray a spirit untamed by the truce that binds two great forces in a cautious peace. Historians still debate whether his actions were driven by mere impulsiveness or a calculated bid to change the tide of history. Reynald, against the murmurs of counsel and the warnings etched in the maps of memory, initiates a move as bold as the sun rising before you. He gathers a band of allies and turns against the vulnerable caravans that snake through the desert sands, carrying with them stories and spices, vibrant silks, and the treasures of the East. With a smirk, Reynald clouds the air with the dust raised by his horse's hooves, signaling his audacious breach of the fragile understanding between two worlds. A ripple of unrest spreads like wildfire. You can almost see it tracing paths across the land through villages and towns where the news travels faster than thought. In the face of the rising tide, a formidable figure stands firm. Saladin, a name that resonates with both fear and admiration, vows that this transgression will not go unanswered. There's a certain calmness in his resolve, though. Beneath it lies the fervor of a righteous storm. As you walk through this historical scene, you picture Saladin's camp, a hive of activity buzzing with preparation. Though his demeanor is serene, there is no mistaking the energy that crackles in the air like early evening thunder. His warriors, determined and disciplined, prepare themselves for what is to come. Saladin's strategy, much like the stars themselves, speaks to a wisdom cultivated over years, seasoned by countless skirmishes and treaties known to unravel at the slightest provocation. Yet even in the midst of such turmoil, there is a surprising detail that catches your attention. It is said, perhaps in jest or truth, that Saladin's favorite camel, an aged creature with a few more scars than most, accompanies the troops' movements as a mascot of sorts. Historians wonder aloud, did this camel serve as an inspiration for steadfastness in the face of adversity, as each of his procession sought strength in unexpected places? As their campaign begins to unfurl, you find yourself aligned with the pulse of the unfolding events. The air around you seems to hum with the intensity of the unfolding narrative. Night by night, soldiers whisper tales beneath the stars, their stories carried away by the desert winds, to be mixed with the grains of sands and shards of dreams. Here, reality and legend find common ground, wrapped in the soft fabric of time. Saladin's campaign to retaliate is vast, with the sun-kissed sands of the desert standing witness to every echoing stride and every determined heart. You walk alongside, swaying with the rhythm of history, being carved into the fabric of the earth, footsteps becoming memories imprinted on the sands. Yet, through it all, the serenity of the desert nights enfolds you, a reminder that even amidst strife, one can find moments of peace. The stars hang like watchful guides above, echoing tales of old, and the timeless nature of the land as you continue on this journey, enveloped in the ever-rolling tides of history, gently rocked by the lull of the past. You find yourself in a bustling city where the sun is dipping below the horizon, casting shades of amber and gold across the skies. The evening air is filled with the sound of people conversing in a variety of languages, Arabic, Turkish, Persian, all blending together like an intricate tapestry at a medieval market. Here in Cairo, the mighty Saladin, a man whose name would echo through the corridors of history, stands upon a raised platform. His voice firm, yet soothing like a gentle river, flowing over smooth stones, carries over the gathered crowd. Tonight you witness a pivotal moment as Saladin declares a holy war to reclaim Jerusalem. Determination blankets his words, gently wrapping every listener in a call to unity. As you sway with the crowd under the half-lit sky, you can almost feel the weight of the history-making moment, as palpable as the cool night breeze. Historians unanimously agree that Saladin was a man of great charisma, but they argue over how swiftly his call to arms was embraced by the diverse group of emirs, scholars, and warriors who would answer it. Was it his reputation as a just leader, or his whisper of divine purpose that brought them together? Faced with layers of uncertainty, you still understand this Saladin's vision transcended divides, offering a shared purpose that sewed hearts together like the intricate stitches on a warrior's armor. You discover that beneath the shining stars, even the greatest of ambitions can take root in the humblest of earth. As you stand amidst the crowd, an unusual detail catches your attention. Each warrior's shield glimmers under the moonlight, adorned not with gilded engravings of individual glory, but with the simple unifying symbol of the crescent bathed in the faint light of promise and solidarity. This unity, compelling yet calm, seeps into you. Saladin's declaration isn't merely a call to arms. Rather, it's as if he's setting the scene for a grand tale to inspire future generations, much like a storyteller weaving through old tales that glimmer in the flickering firelight. He speaks not of conquest for personal gain, but as a caretaker for his people's heritage, an intriguing twist to the usual stories of war. The passion in his voice merging with the serene evening seems to whisper softly that perhaps history itself rests upon the dreams of ambitious men, guiding their people toward shared futures. Your thoughts drift, imagining the scenes to unfold as Saladin's assembled emirs and scholars, guided by faith and strategy, set plans in motion for the campaign to come. Their purpose intertwines, like the melodies of a complex musical score, each part distinct, yet harmonizing towards a single euphoric crescendo. Pressing further into the crowd, you catch snatches of conversations from scholars citing ancient texts, warriors discussing battle formations under the guidance of the stars, and young apprentices learning the art of steel smithing to forge perfect blades. Within these sounds, you find an unexpected kinship, a comforting rhythm that syncs with your quiet breath. These moments, grounded in the present yet reflective of ancient stories, evoke a certain timelessness, a gentle reminder that the line between legend and life is but a thin veil. It's a reality check you didn't quite expect as you're swept away into this soon-to-be legendary operation, realizing that while bedtimes usually bring dreams, they rarely transport you into history's very making. As the night deepens, the bustling energy recedes into a hush enveloped in tranquility. The people once animated with fervor now embrace the quietude, ready to settle into sleep, couching dreams under the watchful gaze of history's impending winds. And you too become part of the gentle march into destiny, soothed by the storytelling which envelops the city in a cozy cocoon. As the fires dwindle to embers casting gentle shadows that dance across ancient stone walls, you watch as Saladin, silhouetted against the starlit sky, glances to the heavens, his thoughts perhaps trailing prayers of hope. You feel the allure of historical uncertainty weaving both with flashy deeds and whispered doubts, rocking you into a peaceful surrender to the night. Within this stretch of time, you drift effortlessly on the calm seas of destiny's unfolding tapestry, wrapped snugly in slumber's embrace cozy beneath dreams, as vivid and inviting as the shadowy figures' tales mingling with soft lullabies. You watch as the hot sun glares down upon the Crusader army, the shimmering heat waves rising from the parched earth like a surreal mirage. King Guy de Lusignan, determined yet perhaps a bit overconfident, leads his troops forward, believing that a bold march would bring a swift victory. However, the landscape quickly becomes an unforgiving foe. Vast stretches of arid land, challenging even their most valiant warriors. Your throat feels dry just thinking about it. The water supply is woefully inadequate for such a journey. The wells they had anticipated seem little more than fables, now having dried up, or perhaps never truly existed. Some say King Guy failed to listen to his seasoned scouts, who had cautioned against this march, preferring instead to court fortune with haste. But then again, historians still debate whether he genuinely misunderstood the severity, or if an unshakable overconfidence clouded his judgment. As you follow the troops' progress, the heat seems to weigh heavier on their armor than the uncertainty of battle. Some attempt to find respite by wetting their lips with the last droplets from their flasks. It's a strange kind of desperation, where hope evaporates into the sky as easily as sweat on their brows. The arid breeze offers no relief, only a constant reminder of the supplies dwindling faster than sand through an hourglass. Despite the tactical missteps, there's an unusual resolve in the ranks. Whispers of Jerusalem, the holy city they endeavor to reclaim, fuel the fires of determination in every heart, even as the prospect of reaching it becomes more distant. You're awash in admiration and a bit of wonder how determination can sometimes carry a person further than any amount of planning. The landscape here is treacherously beautiful in the same way a distant storm is something to admire, yet fear. You remember someone mentioning, perhaps jovially, the importance of bringing along a pet pelican for its tendency to carry water in its beak, and suddenly it doesn't sound so ridiculous. Finally, as evening approaches, a wave of relief washes over the weary soldiers. With the sun setting in hues of orange and crimson, your own eyelids feel heavy, lulled by the rhythmic clank of metal and the gentle rustle of distant olive trees, just audible against the drum of fatigued hearts. You're left pondering the delicate balance of leadership when courage turns to folly, when ambition must bow to practicality, and how easy it is to forget water while chasing dreams across a desert. Yet here you are, enveloped by the tale, drifting slowly into sleep, with that soft background hum, guiding you to rest, much like a distant lull of waves that were nowhere in sight. As you stand on the dry plains near the horns of Hattin, the air is heavy with anticipation. The sun sets in a hazy embrace, casting long shadows over the dusty landscape. You feel a tense energy coursing through your body as you look around, aware that both nature and history are converging on this pivotal moment. All around you, a sea of soldiers waits, with bated breath, the quiet rustle of cloth and the clinking of armor mingling with the whispers of the wind. Saladin, the formidable leader of the Muslim forces, has chosen this site with care. The horns of Hattin rise like great ancient beasts on the horizon, their rocky crowns silhouetted against the twilight sky. It's as if the earth itself has designed a natural amphitheater for the drama about to unfold. You can't shake the feeling that the very ground beneath your feet has borne witness to countless secrets. Historians still debate whether Saladin was a master strategist or simply too good at seizing opportunities. But what's certain is that his plan is both patient and relentless. You, along with the rest of the soldiers, have marched long and hard under a merciless sun. The scarcity of water has made every mile feel like an eternity. Saladin's tactic is as old as war itself: deny the enemy resources and watch their resolve falter. It's a simple plan, yet devilishly effective. The Crusaders have been drawn into Saladin's trap, their thirst and fatigue setting the stage for their impending struggle. You can almost taste the desperation that hangs in the air, just like the stifling dryness that clings to your throat. The historical accounts detail how this lack of water broke the Crusaders more than any blade or arrow could. A stark reminder that nature is often the most formidable adversary of all. It's easy to be lulled by the peacefulness of the scene with its rolling hills and distant murmurs of nature. Yet beneath this tranquility lies a tense anticipation as the subtle movements of Saladin's ranks unfold with deliberate precision. They know their positions well, not merely as soldiers, but as protectors of their land, understanding its quirks and subtleties better than any outlander could. As evening descends, your curiosity about this world deepens. Imagine those Crusaders in their classic chainmail, possibly starting to realize the wisdom of light armor in this sweltering heat. Lesser known to most, their decision was partly inspired by rumors, just like the goat fat trick you heard about earlier, that Saladin's soldiers had hidden wells throughout the terrain. Whether such tales were true or merely bedtime stories to keep young Crusaders vigilant rests among the mysteries historians still untangle. The path you tread is one built on choices echoed by those who came before you. The atmosphere might be calm, but within each Crusader's heart lies a storm of calculations and prayers. There's an innate satisfaction in knowing you're part of this larger story, at a crossroads of time where one man's ambition could determine the fate of many. The soldiers are gearing for more than just a fight. They're bracing for history itself. How do you prepare to face the maneuvers of a tactician like Saladin? Perhaps you share a knowing glance with a fellow Crusader, a quiet acknowledgement of the challenges ahead, one where any single heartbeat could change the course of events. As darkness wraps its arms around the land, the Crusaders hope to find solace in silence, a moment of rest before the chaos. Stars blink into existence one by one, like spectral guardians over this ancient tableau. The land, the people, and their destinies are interwoven in the fabric of what's to come. You imagine what future scholars will say about this battle, knowing that their interpretations will never capture the full measure of what it means to stand here. Sleep, if it comes at all, will be a fleeting comfort, perhaps a reminder that tomorrow could be your last, just another leaf in the pages of history. As you close your eyes, you become part of this ongoing narrative, a tale of heroism, adversity, and the ever-persistent hope for victory amidst seemingly insurmountable odds. You drift off, surrounded by the silent echoes of the past and the low hum of the wind, trusting that, like in all great stories, the dawn will bring a new chapter. Amidst the golden glow of a harsh July sun, you find yourself standing on the sun-baked hills near the horns of Hattin, where the dry air feels heavy with anticipation. It's the 4th of July, but the only fireworks are the glimmers of armor catching the sun's harsh glare. You see the Crusader army arrayed around you, their banners flapping lifelessly in the stifling heat. The true cross, the sacred relic believed to hold a piece of the actual cross upon which Jesus was crucified, is prominently displayed, symbolizing hope and divine favor. However, as the day unfolds, the oppressive heat and the eerie stillness around you whisper a different tale. Saladin's forces, disciplined and formidable, are closing in with an inevitability that feels like the approach of a gathering storm. Historical accounts confirm that on this fateful day, the Crusader army, unprepared for the harsh realities of the terrain, found itself surrounded. Many of the Crusaders were parched with thirst, a disadvantage that history markers believe was perhaps underappreciated at the time. In your imagination, you walk amidst the knights whose faces are lined with both determination and doubt. They clutch their weapons, wear their hopes like armor, and for a moment you wonder if they sense what's to come. You catch a glimpse of Reynald de Châtillon, whose reputation precedes him as a rogue with few scruples, and wonder if his audacious spirit will survive the battle. The battle begins not with a dramatic clash, but rather the slow encroachment of Saladin's archers and cavalry. It's a game of attrition. Dust rises and obscures the view as the two armies engage. The air fills with the clash of steel and cries. It's the sound of the Crusader fate sealing itself bit by bit. The true cross remains with the army, its presence, a desperate talisman of victory that increasingly feels unlikely. The sound and chaos are overwhelming, yet amidst it all, a surprising calm descends over you. You think about how historians note the tactical brilliance of Saladin, whose men harry the Crusaders, driving them further into exhaustion. The Crusader forces are split and demoralized, and you notice some small attempts to regroup, their cohesion fracturing under the dire circumstances. By afternoon, the battle tips irrevocably toward Saladin. It is said that the grass itself thirsted for blood under the harsh sun as the Crusaders found themselves outmatched. You find yourself quietly cheering them on, willing them to find some last reserve of strength, because we all love the underdog, don't we? Eventually, the true cross is captured, its presence no longer a beacon of hope, but a symbol of ramification. The very heart and spirit of the Crusader army is pierced, and with its capture, you know the Crusaders' resolve will not outlast the day. It's a moment in their history when faith might and expectation collide with reality, a reality stamped into the landscape by Saladin's superior tactics. The day wears on, and as dusk falls, the battle concludes, with most of the Crusader army decimated, many taken captive, and others left to join the earth that bore them. Among the captured is King Guy of Jerusalem, his fate uncertain, though rumors suggest it will align with the mercies of political leverage more than malice. Historians still debate whether Reynald's defiance led directly to his execution, or if deeper political complexities were at play. As darkness begins to wrap the fields of Hattin, the night calls for rest. The victorious lay plans for their next moves, while the defeated nurse wounds both physical and spiritual. It's the end of a day that carried the weight of history, a day that you got to envision through the eyes of those who lived it. Now, as you find a quiet place to rest free from the tumult and chaos of battle, you allow your mind to drift with the warm evening breeze. The sun's heat lingers just a little, like a memory that refuses to fade completely. You reassure yourself that everything changes. Battles, fortunes, and even defeats shift like sands in the desert. Let yourself exhale deeply, feeling your own heart settle into the rhythm of peace. There's a certain lull now, a gentle reminder that while history marches relentlessly forward, each night offers a space for renewal and contemplation. You allow the shadows to envelop you softly, their edges blur, as if joining you in this timeless dance of day into night. And as weariness tugs at your eyelids, you recognize the serenity that finally descends. The world outside might still be full of battles, both large and small, but for now, all is still. This moment is nothing short of a lullaby whispered by the ancient winds of history, coaxing you to release, relax, and let the soft embrace of sleep guide you gently onward into dreams, unshackled by time. As you find yourself standing amidst the sweltering desert heat, the sounds of clashing swords and cries of battle seem to echo endlessly around you. The horizon stretches out in waves of shimmering haze, a reminder that crossing the path of destiny is anything but predictable. Now imagine the dust settling just enough to see King Guy of Lusignan, a man caught in the throes of fate, facing the undeniable reality of his capture. As you follow him through this labyrinth of consequence, you feel the weight of his armor heavy on your shoulders, the metal cooling in the twilight as the battle subsides. He stands before the imposing figure of Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria, who assesses him with keen, thoughtful eyes. Despite the tension, a surprising decision emerges. King Guy is spared a twist that startles both friends and foes alike. Perhaps Saladin sees a strategic value in reminding those around him of the mercies of leadership, or perhaps he acknowledges the chaotic whimsy of fortune itself. Yet amidst this unfolding act of clemency, a stark contrast awaits. Nearby, Reynald of Châtillon, a man notorious for breaking truces and plundering caravans, faces a different fate. You watch with a hushed breath as Saladin's gaze hardens. History takes a moment here to hinge on personal retribution, an act seen by many at the time as divine justice enacted by Saladin himself. It's a scene that's dramatic and chilling the sun, casting long shadows as the moment of reckoning approaches. You stand there feeling the tension in the air, the way time seems to slow and how the world holds its breath. Historians still debate whether this act was driven purely by justice, personal vendetta, or political strategy. Each viewpoint slices at the truth with a different edge, leaving a tableau of uncertainty in a landscape already muddied with blood and ambition. One dry, unexpected detail whispers through the historical narrative. Did you know Reynald had once attempted to raid Mecca? It's these kinds of bold, reckless moves that may have sealed his fate, leaving no room for mercy in Saladin's eyes. As you witness the scene, the concept of justice transforms into both a lesson and a warning. In the aftermath, you sense a curious serenity through the camp. The captured, the victors, and the onlookers all process the events in their own reflective silence. In this space of quiet contemplation, you remember how the landscape itself echoes the timeless lessons of power, consequence, and human flaws, woven together in the rich tapestry of history. So as you pull your thoughts back from the past and prepare to gently slide into dreams, let the tale of kings and justice wash over you. The stories of bold kings and the execution of wills remind us that each twist of fate, whether grand or dire, shapes the ripple of human history. Drift now, following the echoes of swords clashing softly into the still night. The story lingers as you shift onto your back, creating room for each muscle to relax like a drawbridge, easing slowly down to rest. The world of ancient crusades, of unyielding knights and calculated sultans settles around you, like the sands of a desert cradling footprints of the past. At this hour, let the lessons of the past usher you into a peaceful slumber, where dreams take you to lands far away. You cradle these memories, their edges softened as the quiet night ushers in a calmness that wraps around you like a comforting cloak. Breathing deeply, count the stars of history shining ever so gently above the canvas of your mind. Each star a chapter, chaining events with glimmers of truth and uncertainty until they hum a gentle lullaby. Remind yourself that resting is as much about the past as it is about the present moment of calm reflection. In this space between awareness and dreams, may you find peace and wisdom from tales of old, embracing the restful promise of a new dawn to come. As you drift, let yourself be surrounded by the soft hum of stories shared in whispers, awakening and reassuring, until you find solace in the embrace of sleep. Go bon. You find yourself gazing over a landscape where the air is heavy with anticipation. Saladin's forces, fresh from their victory at Hattin, swiftly move like a shadow across the land. The sights and sounds of the frenzied activity fill your senses as you walk among them. The banners of the Ayyubid warriors flutter in the wind, each color more vibrant than the last. As you've probably guessed, this isn't your average medieval stroll after all. You're traipsing through the aftermath of one of the pivotal battles in Crusader history, so keeping your head attached is quite an accomplishment. You take a moment to imagine the formidable figure of Saladin himself, determined and calculated, leading his men with unwavering resolve. They march toward the coast, their target the bustling port city of Acre. You'd think the fortress would hold out in defiance, but as is often the way of things, the city falls surprisingly quickly. Historians still debate whether the citizens saw the political writing on the wall or simply couldn't muster the will to withstand the storm. Either way, the gates swing open and the city is taken with minimal resistance. Around you, the mood is incredibly buoyant, different from the somber tones of history books. There's an unusual sight, as Saladin's men, perhaps, in a show of good-natured mischief, set up an impromptu market square, complete with exchanging wares and boisterous laughter. You can't help but smile at the irony, a temporary peace in a time defined by war. Nablus is next on the path, nestled in a valley, a jewel amidst the landscape. Known for its lush olive groves and industrious people, it welcomes Saladin's approach. You walk the path into the city, feeling the air change with a mix of tension and relief. The people, it seems, have already come to terms with the new power in town, their lives resuming with a subtle shift. There's a surprising calmness about them that historians puzzle over. Did they foresee prosperity under the new rule? Or perhaps they valued survival over allegiance. Marching south, you find yourself in Jaffa, its famous orange blossoms lightly scenting the air. A gentle breeze carries the sound of the sea, a calming soundtrack to what might have been another bloody siege. Here, too, Saladin's presence is felt swiftly and resoundingly. The stronghold surrenders with the whispered promise of peace. Life in Jaffa gradually returns to a state of normalcy, the people adapting to the new order. Some say there's an air of uncertainty, a hesitation as if this quiet might just be the calm before another storm. Each stronghold you pass along your dreamlike journey falls in line with a strange kind of ritualistic certainty. The lands that once seemed so impenetrable now appear fragile, like sand castles at the mercy of an incoming tide. Amidst these experiences, a peculiar thought dances across your mind. You recall an unusual account of a remarkably large feast prepared by Saladin's army to celebrate yet another victory. Legend has it that the spread was so enormous, it might have rivaled the bounty of an emperor's banquet. This anecdote humanizes the formidable warrior, adding a touch of humor. When was the last time a conquering force was known for its culinary prowess? As you re-enter the rhythm of the march, a sense of reflection settles over you. These quick successes, while diplomatically and strategically significant, offer a glimpse into the complex tapestry of history. Every city, every fortress carries with it stories of resilience and adaptation. They are echoes of a world caught between conflict and coexistence. You press on, the narrative of victory reverberating in your mind like a lullaby of triumph and transformation. The weight of history feels lighter, softened by the resilient spirit of those who lived through the tumultuous era. With each step, the tension dissipates, replaced with the gentle awareness of how fleeting power can be, whether in your hands or marching beside you. As you finally settle along this narrative pathway, it becomes clear that the relentless pace of change, the gentle surrender of old strongholds, is but a brief episode in a vast, ever-evolving history. The story of Saladin's swift conquest isn't merely an account of military prowess, but a reminder of the human struggles and conciliations that shape the world. And so, you close your eyes, lulled by the rhythmic echoes of the past, as the story melts into the comfort of silence, enveloping you in a soothing embrace of history's timeless lullaby. As news of defeat reaches your ears, a heavy blanket of unease settles over Jerusalem. The city, its ancient stones, whispering tales of glory and grief, finds itself engulfed in a tumultuous mix of panic and prayer. You walk among the people feeling the charged air around you. The streets, once vibrant with the bustle of trade and chatter, now pulse with the tension of impending siege. Close by in the temples, prayers rise like smoke, each word carrying hope for deliverance. Priests and lay people alike clasp hands and close eyes, seeking solace in their faith. Yet amidst their whispered invocations, a shared understanding lurks, one that acknowledges the grim reality outside the city walls. You sense it too, that unsettling mixture of dread and determination. Historians still debate whether the despair inside Jerusalem was because of overwhelming enemy numbers or a collapse of morale among its defenders. Whatever the cause, you can feel the weight of their fear as you pass by. Mothers clutch their children tightly, whispering stories of heroism with a brightness that belies their own worry. Meanwhile, soldiers stoic and grim sharpen swords and adjust armor with a precision that speaks of experience. They are readying themselves for what seems an unavoidable fate. Amidst this quiet preparation, one unusual scene catches your eye: a small group of merchants unrolling their carpets as if today were just any other market day. Their attempts at normalcy seem absurd against the backdrop of fortifications and armed guards. Yet there is something almost comforting in their steadfast routine. As one merchant sews an intricate pattern into a tapestry, you find yourself pondering the delicate balance between habit and hope. You overhear snippets of conversation that reveal both the noble and the mundane concerns of those around you. One elderly man claims that the enemy has trained war elephants, though the notion seems as doubtful as it is terrifying. Still, the story spreads quickly, and you watch as people embellish it further in hushed tones. This tale of exotic mighty beasts serves, if anything, as a distraction from the immediate fear in their hearts. The defenders of Jerusalem look outwards to the vast desert, searching for any sign of allies, any glimmer of relief on the horizon. Yet deep down, the truth is clear: help is unlikely to come. With this acknowledgement comes a haunting acceptance of their predicament, the kind that settles deep in the chest and remains as constant as the heartbeat. Through this turmoil, you find that the landscape itself becomes a player in the unfolding drama. The city's massive gates, centuries old and scarred from past sieges, seem to creak and groan under the burden of history and uncertainty. Their very presence is a reminder of past endurance, a symbol both of defense and the unavoidable consequences of war. As day turns to night, you wander to a quieter part of the city. The stars above form a calming canopy, their age-old patterns unchanged by the ground-bound struggles below. There you see one soldier apart from the rest, gazing skyward with a look of introspection that is both poignant and profound. You imagine he stands not just as a defender of a city, but as a keeper of its hope, clutching tightly to the notion of peace amidst chaos. The soldier's gaze turns back to the city at his feet, to the walls he is sworn to protect. Like many in Jerusalem, his face carries the lines of stories untold, etched deep by sun, wind, and worry. The fire of determination flickers in his eyes, mirroring the torches, bearing their own steady watch along the parapets. This watchfulness is all that stands between the city and whatever fate awaits just outside its sturdy walls. You pull your own cloak tighter against the evening chill, as if to ward off the encroaching shadows that creep ever closer. It's a small comfort, this thin layer of fabric, but somehow it helps center you in the moment, drawing you back from hypothetical futures to the here and now. You remind yourself that every thread woven, every stone laid, every story whispered in this city bears the weight and witness of history. In your heart, you understand that while defeat might be near, defiance still thrums strong among these ancient stones. You leave the soldier's side and meander through the quieter streets where shadows intermingle with golden lamp-lit paths. You hear the distant echo of hymns mixing with the soft breeze, creating a lullaby, both haunting and reassuring. It's a melody that speaks of resilience, of enduring spirit. As you wander, fatigue begins to wrap around you like a familiar shroud. The events of the day have been heavy, their intensity leaving you yearning for rest. As your thoughts start to drift and the hum of the city fades into the background, you contemplate the delicate dance between despair and hope, between panic and prayer. Lulled by the rhythms of Jerusalem's nighttime symphony, you're finally ready to let go. Yielding to the soft embrace of sleep, you realize that while the night may seem eternal, a new dawn always waits just beyond the horizon, promising both mystery and the chance for rebirth. And so, with a deepening sense of calm settling over you like a gentle tide, retreating into itself, you drift into dreams woven by Jerusalem's past and present, carrying with them the quiet promise of tomorrow. September 1187. The air feels heavy, as if filled with the anticipation of what's to come. You stand on the city walls where the old stones echo the legacy of countless past sieges, each a story written in dust and determination. Below, Saladin's army swirls like a massive, relentless tide, encircling the city of Jerusalem. You sense the palpable tension like the calm before a storm, yet oddly comforting in its predictability. The sound is initially absent, but then slowly it emerges. The rhythmic thud, thud, thud of the siege engines pounding against the walls. It's a symphony of war, eerily constant, almost lulling in its tempo. You watch as massive stones fly overhead like angry birds, crashing into the defenses with a force that vibrates through your very bones. Imagine standing close enough to feel the rush of wind as these projectiles whoosh past. It's one of those moments where the sheer force of history's momentum makes you wonder if you'd make it out alive. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls half lost amidst the din, a reminder of both faith and fate. Saladin's forces spread across the plains like a sea of endless movement, horses' banners and glinting armor under the sun. Historians oft muse about the chess-like brilliance of Saladin's strategies, but what passes through your mind is the vast expanse of humanity, their sounds and smells, almost like a festival, save for the ominous undertones. Amidst all this, negotiators begin to move between camps. The word brings with it a sense of hope, perhaps tinged with skepticism. Can the path of diplomacy curve away from catastrophe? Through this thick atmosphere of uncertainty comes a surprising detail. Historically, it's whispered, one envoy brought Saladin a gift of fresh summer fruit from the city's gardens, a quiet reminder of shared humanity. Historians still debate whether such gestures truly softened any resolve, or were simply a veneer over cold, hard agendas. The siege engines continue their relentless hammering, but in the heart of it all, discussions attempt to weave another story, one of peace. The negotiators are like the fine thread connecting two tapestries, delicate yet crucial. You might wonder how amidst such noise anything as fragile as peace can be heard. And there in the midst of all these larger-than-life events, you find a moment to breathe, standing on the same ground trodden by warriors and diplomats alike. The story of siege and survival unfolds around you, its rhythm carrying you softly toward the twilight of possibility. You stand on the ancient battlements feeling the warm, rough stone beneath your fingertips. The air hangs heavy with the anticipation of what is to come. Shadows lengthen as the sun dips toward the horizon, casting an amber glow over the city. Around you whispers ripple through the ranks of defenders, their eyes fixed toward the opposing horizon, where the vast army of Saladin awaits, like a tide ready to crash upon the shores of history. In this moment you become aware of Balian, the man who has risen in this hour of need to guide these people. Balian, once a blacksmith, had emerged through trial and flame to stand as a leader. His voice, calm and measured, carries over the assembly. You notice a remarkable steadiness in his demeanor, a strength born not from conquest, but from an unwavering resolve to defend what they hold dear. It's said with a hint of disbelief that even during such times, people whispered Balian bore the quiet grace of a saint, though historians still debate whether this was hindsight's romantic view or an actuality of his presence. As Balian negotiates with Saladin, a man respected across cultures for his chivalry, there's a surreal tranquility in the exchange. Saladin, embodying the principles of honor and magnanimity, listens with a furrowed brow. Here are two men opposing, but not unlike in their wisdom and respect for life, measuring each other's intentions through words instead of swords, at least for now. The historical accounts vary, suggesting perhaps a shared understanding of the era's brutal realities, but it's likely their conversations swirled around the fate of the city, a city that, much like a delicate thread in the grand tapestry of history, was poised to unravel. In the heart of the city, the air is thick with preparation. Civilians and clergy move with purpose, their faces a blend of fear and faith. The clergy with robes billowing like sails against the tug of anxiety gather in small clusters with their heads bowed in prayer. The idea that their words could influence the heavens above serves as a comforting balm against the tide of inevitability. They chant softly, their voices interwoven like a gentle breeze through the olive trees, hoping for divine intercession, or at the very least the strength to endure whatever is to come. Civilians gather their families, holding them close. You see a mother tying bright ribbons into her daughter's hair, a moment of normalcy in the eye of a storm. It seems almost surreal, a snapshot of peace amidst chaos. She tells her daughter tales of legendary heroes, perhaps to implant courage where fear might otherwise take root. It's curious to think that amidst so much tension, folklore could provide as much fortitude as any sword. You're reminded of how Balian had not so long ago organized the city's defenses with as much practicality as affection. Old battlements are fortified, arrows are gathered, and buckets of water stand at the ready against the night's fires. His genuine care for the people under his charge draws surprisingly little skepticism, though given the nature of wartime leadership, you might expect more. Perhaps this is what makes him distinctly memorable, a sincere, almost fatherly devotion amid the harsh garb of a knight. Outside the city walls, Saladin's army sits like a coiled serpent. The assumption as these things go is that a battle will end swiftly with a clear victor to write history. But tonight Balian proposes a different kind of victory, one where survival doesn't wear a conqueror's banner and compassion emerges unscathed. Oddly enough, as preparations continue, there's a rumor that may or may not be more than a hopeful whisper that Saladin might consider sparing those within the city for a handsome ransom, a tribute to negotiation over annihilation. As night falls, the flicker of torches begins to waver against the two armies. You stand in the dusk with the city alive behind you and an ocean of quiet anticipation ahead. Perhaps, as you watch the first stars prick the blanket of sky, you entertain a single wish, a hope one that transcends the immediate horizons, hoping for peace, however unlikely it may seem now. This night feels different, imbued with a sense of collective courage that seems to rise like a phoenix from history's ashes. You breathe in deeply, tasting the faint edge of metal and anticipation on the wind. As you exhale, your breath joins the city's exhalation, and for a moment you are part of something greater, a single heartbeat in this intricate dance of twilight and dawn, history and memory. As you listen to the lull of the city preparing for what might be its last stand, somehow you feel yourself cocooned in the timeless rhythm of courage that sings through the ages. And so, beneath the cool canopy of night, with watchful eyes and hopeful hearts, you remain a witness to time bound on the edge of both what was and what might be, guided by nothing more and nothing less than the human spirit's tenacious embrace of life. In a time long past when the world was stitched together by tales of knights and crusaders, you wander through the dusty, bustling streets of Jerusalem. The air is thick with tension, but also hope, as whispers drift through the crowds. You see people not clad in armor, but carrying bundles of treasured belongings. They move with purpose and trepidation, heading towards the city gates. It's a far cry from the terror that gripped this place in the year 1099, when Crusaders stormed in, and fear soaked the very stones with shadows of the fallen. Unlike that grim past, what you observe now is a scene of measured resignation rather than mayhem. Saladin, the Sultan who conquered the city, is known throughout the land. Unlike those who came before intent on bloodshed, Saladin offers peace. Historians still debate whether this was an act of sheer strategy or genuine mercifulness, but what you witness is undeniable, a kindlier surrender. Instead of battle cries, there's the quiet clinking of coin as Christians tender ransoms for safe passage out. The ransom isn't a mere token, mind you. It's a price steep enough that some clutch their pockets in dismay. However, Saladin's terms resonate with fairness, even as they weigh heavily on the departing Christians. Ransoms must be paid for freedom, a fee for the security of life and limb. The reality is harsh, yet it offers a silver lining: life. You may chuckle at the irony that in a time where swords could decide your fate, it's coin instead that buys your tomorrow. A striking scene lingers as you walk beside these travelers. One family clutching a bundle wrapped with care. You wonder if it's a family heirloom or a relic charged with sentimental worth. The adult's eyes meet yours briefly. It's a glimpse filled with unvoiced stories. This silent exchange speaks volumes, the heartache of leaving one's land, coupled with the relief of a narrow escape. You almost feel like offering a comforting pat on the back, but the moment drifts past like city dust in the wind. You notice the varied expressions, a blend of wariness and relief. Some slip out coins reluctantly, while others glance around as if memorizing the city's features for the last time. Among this human tapestry, a young child walks by, their hand clutched firmly in a parent's grip. In their other hand, a small toy, carved from wood, endearing innocence amidst such gravity. Amidst this somber exodus, there's an unexpected detail that catches your eye. A small procession of monks, not burdened with tangible goods, but chanting softly in unwavering faith. They carry nothing but their order's simple banner. It's the kind of historical oddity that prompts questions. Were they choosing to stay? Historians might puzzle over whether these monks believed that divine intervention would alter events, or if perhaps their faith itself was their treasure trove. In this convergence of parting and peace, the city seems almost to exhale. The tumult within is quickly becoming a memory. The soft hum of people abandoning homes weaves a strange lullaby. As the gates loom larger before you, you intuitively pause, letting this imprinted scene absorb into your thoughts. The reality facing each passerby differs considerably. Some may find new beginnings, others just uncertain roads. You almost feel yourself swept along your footsteps, ghosting on paths where others tread with more urgency. Unlike any tale of heroic last stands, this moment is quietly monumental, a chapter, written more with dignity than destruction. As the last of the ransomed exit and the shadows of the city gate fall long and low into the afternoon, a peculiarly calm sense of an ending fills the space thick like honey. And just like the stories traded by merchants along the Silk Road, this event will transform into legend, partly truth, partly the imaginative workings of those who recount it. You ponder this as you step back from the edge of Saladin's realm and consider your own place in history's expanse. It's a thought worth savoring. What remains clear, even with time's mighty flow, Bending the truth is that Saladin's choice in this moment to conquer, yet offer clemency, has orchestrated a departure, not a massacre. An act worth retelling, echoed with whispers and warmth, heard here from your corner of the world. And so, as the city on the hill finally dims to your gaze, taking with it its burdens and hopes, you pull back softly, resting in the knowledge of change and chance. You wonder at the unfolding stories and realize every step and every decision, no matter how small, threads history's rich tapestry. Each thread parted by Saladin's surrender weaves its way gently into tomorrow's dawn, offering a quilted peace more poignant than pillaged ruins. You find yourself in the midst of a bustling city, its atmosphere humming with anticipation. This isn't the Jerusalem of modern times, but a world steeped in medieval history, with every street and marketplace echoing tales of the past. As you wander through the sun-drenched streets, the scent of spices, the calls of merchants, and the laughter of children playing in the distance create a lively tapestry around you. The year is 1187, and though the city has seen conflict and change, a new chapter is about to unfold under the guiding hand of a man named Saladin. His name, whispered with both respect and hope, is on the lips of the people. Saladin has just reclaimed Jerusalem for the Islamic world, and his presence is felt like a gentle yet formidable breeze, promising renewal. You wonder amidst this energetic anticipation, what might it feel like to stand in the shadow of history's great players, where every decision echoes through centuries? Yet fear, not you, probably won't survive the perils of time travel, but imagining it is safe and snug in your cozy spot tonight. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you settle into the story, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The evening sun casts long shadows as you stroll towards the heart of the old city. The air is an embracing mix of coolness and lingering warmth, just as Saladin might have felt it when he first set his eyes on the noble domes that define Jerusalem's skyline. There's a palpable sense of reverence as you approach the dome of the rock, which has been closed during preceding years of strife. Historians still debate whether Saladin paused for reflection at this momentous sight, his heart full with the weight of centuries. But what is clear is his intention, a symbol of healing and continuity of faith, restored. You can almost hear the soft murmur of past prayers weaving through the gentle breeze. The mosques, some quiet for years, come alive once more under Saladin's orders. With respect and ceremony, he oversees their restoration, ensuring their grandeur is preserved for all who come to witness their beauty. The sound of chisels and steady hands coaxing new life into old stones mirrors the steady resurgence of Islamic rule. But unlike the harshness often associated with such transitions of power, Saladin's approach is one of care and inclusion, respecting the diversity within the ancient city. Interestingly, you notice how his soldiers, normally fierce protectors of their mission, move respectfully through these sacred spaces, embodying a softer side of their duty. Though clad in armor, Their tenderness towards what symbolically and literally lies at the heart of Islamic culture is palpable. Yet in this moment of victory, Saladin's ceremonies aren't just grand gestures, they possess an intimate quality. The incense traces patterns through the air, accompanying the quiet, thoughtful ritual of reopening the dome of the rock. Witnessing this, you realize it must have been both a political act and a deeply personal affirmation of faith. What might surprise you is the gentility with which this reassertion of rule is carried out. Saladin is no stranger to the tumult of battlefields, yet his triumph here is in the peace and solemnity he brings to the houses of worship. It's a stark contrast to the chaos that so often defines conquest. Instead, it seems almost gentle, like a melody, composed of whispered verses and slow footsteps on marble floors. As you imagine the soft shuffling of celebrants and curious onlookers entering these now vibrant mosques, the delicate alchemy of power entwined with compassion seems to linger in the very air. The people, though diverse in their backgrounds and beliefs, are united under the canopy of these restored spaces. And as the final rays of sunlight fade, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold, you're left with an image of a city renewed not by sword or force, but by respect and ceremony, by gentle hands reawakening slumbering spirit. You close your eyes, letting the stories of this place weave their own lullaby, cradling you in history's soothing embrace. In the cool, soft winds of a gathering evening, you find yourself walking ever so gently through the historical alleys of a city that has seen kings and conquerors pass beneath its ancient stones. The light is dim, casting long shadows on walls that have heard more secrets than you could whisper in a lifetime. And as Jerusalem stretches out before you, it unfolds tales of its own. Under the watchful gaze of Saladin, the city breathes anew, welcoming people who once wandered its streets, people who look upon its walls, hoping for a new page in their history. You feel the history beneath your feet, where moments ago a breeze carried the scent of spices from the bustling markets, mixing with stories of a time when returning here was but a dream for many. It was 1187 when Saladin, the noble Sultan, stood as a beacon for those seeking refuge. His actions painted a stark contrast to the Crusader rule that had come before. Under Crusader rule, Jerusalem was a fortress of fear and exclusion. The city, daunting and metallic in its strictness, had closed its gates to those with different beliefs, different hopes. Yet here you are, in a time where mercy treads upon the wayward path of history. Saladin's vision for Jerusalem was not one of walls, but of open gates, a haven where Jews who had been displaced could once again settle, reclaiming their history. Just as you tread carefully on this story we weave, historians often sit in quiet debate, reflecting on whether Saladin's decisions were purely altruistic or part of a grander political chess game. Regardless, your journey here tonight whispers of his storied intentions. His actions were both a compassionate embrace and a strategic maneuver, allowing Jews to return to Jerusalem after being cast out for nearly a century by the previous rulers. As you wander these alleyways, you can almost hear the conversations of the past, echoing softly against the stone, the steady rhythm of hope, rekindling lost connections. It's surprisingly cozy here, considering the weight of all that history. Perhaps it's the collective exhale of a people finding their home once again that lends a calming air to the streets. And then there are the aspects of daily life you stumble upon. How would it feel, you wonder, to once again touch the stones of the city your ancestors had described in quiet stories around the fire, where homes are built and prayers are whispered into the lingering dusk? Saladin's Jerusalem felt like a soft touch against harsh memories human in a way that defies the rigid armor of time. There's a little-known tale perhaps tucked away in the folds of history, like a hidden scroll about the market stall owner, a Jewish merchant who set up his booth for the first time since returning. They say the aroma of his fresh dates mingled with laughter, an optimistic breeze as potent as the sharpest spice. But whether that was truly palpable joy or a mere hopeful fiction, spun by the imagination of the people, historians continue to ponder. The night deepens, and you can sense the balance of power that this land has always strived so precariously to maintain. Jerusalem's openness under Saladin seemingly promised harmonious coexistence, a shared horizon after many sunsets of division. And so as you gently close this part of your journey, feeling the stories march alongside you in step, there's a humility that whispers across the centuries. In a land where dreams had been barricaded behind stone walls, Saladin's stewardship allowed the city to breathe as a community, not just for one, but for many. The touch of history is here guiding you softly, with the promise of a tomorrow where understanding and openness can exist, revealing that perhaps in the folds of time, the humanity of a leader will always stand as the most resilient chapter of all. Your eyes flutter open, and you find yourself standing in a grand echoing chamber. Towering stone walls stretch around you, adorned with tapestries depicting knights and battles long since fought. Dust motes dance lazily in shafts of light streaming through high, narrow windows. As you adjust to the dim light, the chamber's focal point comes into view, a majestic throne, opulent yet empty. The heady aroma of incense lingers in the air, weaving with the faint rustle of parchment and distant clatter of metal. Suddenly a herald's voice rings clear, vibrating through the ancient air. The Holy Father has declared a new crusade. The announcement echoes off the stone walls, rippling through the room until it reaches you like a gentle tide. Europe, you learn, is in shock. King and commoner alike feel the tremors of this declaration by Pope Gregory VIII, as if the ground beneath them has shifted ever so slightly. In the corridors of power, the news spreads quickly, whispered in awe disbelief, and sometimes intrigue, as one does when mentioning rumors of dragons in distant lands. You sense the urgency crackling in the atmosphere, like a summer storm gathering on the horizon. It's almost as if Europe itself holds its breath, suspended between the past and the unknown future. Back in the day, crusades were like medieval rock concerts, massive, chaotic, and with questionable outcomes. The Pope's urgent call invites kings and knights to ready themselves for the arduous journey eastward, though historians still debate whether the clergy saw this as a sincere spiritual call or a chance to reclaim prestige and dominion. You can almost picture the kings of Europe seated around heavy wooden tables, deep in consultation. Maps unfurl beside goblets of wine, and advisors murmur over strategies, just like a risky game of chess with real lives at stake. In the Kingdom of France, for instance, you notice King Philip Augustus, frowning over a map, tracing potential paths with a jeweled finger. Nearby, the aging King Henry II of England glances toward his sons, possibly weighing the opportunities and upheavals this new enterprise might herald. There's a hint of camaraderie between rivals. A unifying cause often manages to do that much, like an unexpected bond forming over a shared secret. Still, you can't help but wonder or chuckle softly at the ambitious nobles who view this holy mission as a chance to escape courtly duties or disastrous debts, while simultaneously carving out their names in history. Amidst these preparations, one unforgettable image catches your mind, a medieval Instagram post, if you will. Picture a gathering at an ornate cathedral where gleaming banners flap in the breeze. Knights kneel for their blessings, and the brilliant sunlight catches on polished armor. The crowd that gathers must feel the heart-stirring mix of anticipation and dread, much like standing at the top of a towering roller coaster ready to plunge. Back in England, the knights with their chainmail glittering, and surely they dream of glory, though maybe not clean laundry exchange, somber, promises their hearts resolute in the face of a grand and unpredictable adventure. Onlookers raise prayers to a clear sky, hoping for divine favor and protection. As you take in these scenes unfolding around you, drawing you further into this historical tapestry, you suddenly notice that not everyone shares this fervor for the Crusade. Astrology buffs might have predicted the weighty celestial struggles, while pragmatic farmers and townsfolk wonder how the absence of so many knights might affect their day-to-day toil. It's an interplay of faith and reality intertwined, reflecting our timeless human drama. In this moment, you stand amidst these intertwining threads of intrigue and preparation. The air around you feels charged with possibilities. You realize that while the past is a field of stories sown with certainty and conjecture, your journey through it promises to yield more than just answers. It offers glimpses into the grand human effort that continues to define eras. Keeping this in mind, you settle back, ready to watch history unfold in a way both unfamiliar and eerily reminiscent of tales you've heard before. And so you find yourself at the edge of an ancient city, Jerusalem, a name whispered through the sands of time. Its very stones were the stories of millennia. But tonight they breathe an era where mighty forces sought its control, leaving behind echoes of both triumph and sorrow. You stand on the cusp of history, the cool night air filled with the scent of spices from distant lands, as the faint outlines of Crusader fortresses loom under the moonlight. Perhaps one might think that gaining command of such a powerful place ensures unyielding dominance. Yet as you walk through these winding streets, you realize the truth is as complex as the mosaic-tiled pathways beneath your feet. The Crusader period has ended the tangible symbol of their influence, slipping like sand through fingers with the loss of this sacred city. Jerusalem's capture, by forces led by Saladin in 1187, reshaped the landscape of the entire region, an undeniable historical fact. It was a shift that would alter not just maps, but hearts and minds on both sides of East-West relations. As you pause before an ancient olive tree, its gnarled branches reaching skyward, just as they did when knights and warriors walked these lands, you find yourself reflecting on this turning point. Historians still debate whether Saladin's relatively magnanimous treatment of the city's inhabitants was a calculated political maneuver or a gesture of genuine chivalry. Regardless, the conquest signified more than a change of rulers. It was akin to the quiet crescendo of a symphony that heralds a new movement. In the silence of the night, with distant echoes of a world in upheaval, it is easy to forget the blood and dust of battle that once surrounded these walls. Saladin's conquest wasn't the conclusion of conflict, but rather a new chapter, leaving the Crusaders to regroup and ponder their next move. You sense the enormity of these decisions, the heaviness of history's expectations just as a shadow crosses your path, perhaps belonging once to a knight now, merely a shard of a bygone era. A little-known detail might intrigue you during this turbulent period. Attempts were made by both sides to negotiate control of the city through alliances and marriages, sometimes promising peace, other times sowing further discord. This world of politics was as intricate as the vibrant tapestries of the time, though such plans were often quashed by the waves of uncertainty both sides faced. Your journey tonight reminds you that while tangible treasures like cities and castles drew many to these lands, the deeper invisible currents of faith and human aspiration were often the true prizes. It's a delicate dance of power and belief, where each step echoes with the persistent question, what remains when the sands of time have covered the footsteps? As the night deepens, you imagine the once bustling marketplaces, vibrant with the languages of many lands. Trade routes were the very veins of these interactions, pumping life, culture, and goods between East and West. Walking past what was once the marketplace, this interaction seems painted in every ancient fresco and in the hum of merchants' voices carried by the wind. The moon casts a gentle light over your path, and as the day begins to nod into the restful bow of night, you feel a profound kinship with those who once trod these stones, regardless of their flag or their faith. You realize that while the Crusaders' era in the Holy Land may have seen its climax, the ripples of its ending stretch far, resonating even now across distant lands. As these thoughts lull you deeper into reflection, you become ever more attuned to the subtle energy of this land where East met West in chaotic, hopeful, ephemeral embraces. Just like the tender breeze that rustles the leaves of the olive tree, history moves softly. It transforms as these ancient stones underfoot forever, whispering tales of time into the eager night. You steady your breath, harmonizing it with the gentle rhythms of the stories woven through each stone, each lingering spirit of Jerusalem. This journey back through the layered and sometimes turbulent saga doesn't simply recount battles and conquests. It invites you to ponder the nature of victory and loss, how they're sometimes indistinguishable twins in the tapestry of time. And as with any journey worth taking, its end leaves the traveler changed, intrigued by the echoes of all that has come before. pondering what might still be yet to come. And so, as this chapter in your exploration quiets, you settle into the restful weave of night. The murmurs of history blend seamlessly with your own rhythmic breathing. Listen closely, and you might just hear the distant sounds of a city that once stood at the crossroads of history, waiting for a morning sun, a new day, a new story. With these soothing thoughts, you let the night carry you into a well-deserved slumber. As you settle deeper into the grand tapestry of history, the candlelight flickers dimly, casting long shadows that dance across the walls of your imagination. You find yourself standing in a bustling medieval bazaar. The air is thick with the scent of exotic spices and the soft murmur of a world long past. In the midst of this vibrant tapestry walks a figure whose name echoes through the annals of history, Saladin, the legendary Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Tonight, your journey brings you to explore an intriguing aspect of Saladin's life, his reputation as a paragon of mercy and honor. But as with any legendary tale, whispers of doubt and mystery weave through the narrative. Could it be true that this formidable warrior was as merciful as the stories suggest? Or is it a facade conjured by the passing of time and embellishments of chroniclers? As with any hero of old, Saladin's story is painted with broad strokes of glory and chivalry. You see him striding solemnly across a battlefield, granting quarter to enemies, and vowing protection over his newfound lands. This we know from a historical account, where after capturing Jerusalem in 1187, Saladin ordered the city spared of bloodshed, a merciful act that contrasted sharply with the brutality typical of such conquests. You feel a gentle warmth, a beacon of humanity in those turbulent times. Yet as you wander deeper into his legend, you hear whispers that not everyone regarded Saladin with such reverence. Medieval chroniclers from the other side of the conflict paint a more complex picture. Some saw him not just as a noble liberator, but a shrewd strategist who could wield kindness as a weapon of war. It's said that even his court was a place of political machinations, where mercy and malice could lie hand in hand, latent amidst the soft clinking of goblets filled with fragrant coffee. You pause for a moment, imagining those opulent halls and the man who navigated them. Saladin was known to invite former enemies to join him at his table, breaking bread as easily as he could command armies. His alliances were strategic masterstrokes uniting disparate factions in a manner almost unheard of. Historians still debate whether this was born of genuine goodwill or calculated diplomacy. The gentle hum of history guides you on revealing surprising details that illuminate the era's complexities. You learn of the envoy, who, seeking Saladin's audience, arrived with trembling hands, but departed with gifts and promises of safety. Such acts fed the legend a blend of steel and silk, of calculated mercy that could endear even a sworn foe. In the soft embrace of this narrative, you remain constantly aware of the fragile line between truth and myth. How much of Saladin's grace was genuine compassion, and how much was the art of the tactician? These questions swirl as leaves caught in a gentle breeze, tantalizing in their mystery, refusing to settle. Amongst these stories is the curious account of a rare extravagance. A caravan of camels traveling under cover of secrecy laden with sugar, an indulgence meant to sweeten strained negotiations. An expensive folly in the eyes of some, but for Saladin, perhaps another talisman. A reminder that conquest hasn't consumed the sweetness of life. In your journey, you meet a final twist of irony during the Third Crusade. Richard the Lionheart and Saladin never faced each other in battle. Instead, tales of mutual respect and elusive shadowboxing define their legend, the tension between them becoming a canvas painted not in blood, but in words. Saladin's reputation as a man of honor was reinforced when he sent his personal physician to tend the ailing Richard, once more blurring the line between wartime enemy and noble ally. As you reflect on this poignant interplay between legend and fact, the gentle question of his true character hovers as nebulous as the mist curling across those far-off plains. With a yawn and a stretch, your journey folds into itself plush with the tender enigma of human nature. The shadows in your room lengthen, and as the story winds down to a gentle close, allowing your mind to drift towards a peaceful lull, the rhythm of time stretches the heavy lids of your eyes, surrendering to the weight of history's embrace. The light so carefully nurtured fades gently, much like Saladin's echoes, through the centuries, a soft whisper, a reminder that within even the fiercest heart lies the potential for mercy, a kaleidoscope of honor colored by countless hues that history may never fully reveal. The room around you becomes still the hush, a comforting balm for a mind at rest, gently cradling the tapestry of one man's incredible journey. Tonight, weave yourself into that delicate thread of legacy. As history unfolds you, it carries with it the promise of rest, the soft caress of shadows guiding you into the depths of dreaming, where the whisper of the past still hums, soothing and serene. The transition into new rule happens almost as imperceptibly as the shift from day to night in this timeless city. You find yourself walking along the cobbled streets, feeling the ancient stones beneath your feet as they whisper stories of the past with each step. While the gold of the setting sun casts a honeyed glow upon the dome-studded skyline, there's a new rhythm to life here now. The city is under Muslim rule. The minarets reach for the sky with a sense of renewal. Yet there's a touch of familiar continuity, too, in the chants that echo gently at dawn. Life in the city adjusts to this new governance with a blend of wonder and resilience. Christians remain carrying on their traditions in a delicate balance of coexistence and change. The air is infused with the incense of different cultures, mingling a heady mix of spices from far-off lands and the aroma of fresh bread from the bazaar. You meander through the bustling marketplace, where merchants from myriad backgrounds haggle with animated gestures, offering goods that carry the stories of the Silk Road. The vibrant tapestry of voices creates a harmonious symphony, underscoring the city's timeless resilience. Pilgrims begin to return, drawn by the city's sacred magnetism, their journeys like tributaries feeding into the great river of life here. They bring stories of their travels, tales of miraculous visions seen on starlit nights in distant lands. You see them congregate near the city's ancient holy sites, their wonder a palpable energy that blends with the city's pulse. Yet beneath this surface of harmonious diversity, tension simmers like a pot slowly reaching boil. Its subtle and undercurrent felt more deeply in certain quarters behind the closed doors of tightly knit communities. You notice a sideways glance here, a whispered conversation there. Historians still debate whether this tension was merely the flicker of change or a deep-seated friction yet to erupt. As the city navigates this new chapter, the air is thick with the anticipation of what could be. While you walk through the streets, it's extraordinary how life finds its way to adapt, like how water flows around rocks in a riverbed, shaping itself without losing its essence. The city's transformation is not absolute, but rather an intricate dance of old and new, a delicate weaving of historical threads into a new fabric. You pause at the threshold of an ancient church, still standing firm in the embrace of change, its walls reverberating with echoes of eternal hymns, juxtaposed against the call to prayer that claims the skies. As night falls, casting a velvet cloak over the city, you can't help but feel a sense of awe. The city appears like a vast mosaic, each piece distinct, yet forming a flawlessly enchanting picture. There's a crackle of potential in the air, an electricity that's both calming and exciting. You lie back and let the history wash over you, a gentle tide that carries you to the brink of dreams. Just like leaning into a treasured, familiar story, you find comfort in the continuity despite the transformations happening all around. In this calming lullaby of the ages, the city's heartbeat remains strong and steady, a reliable guide through times of uncertainty. You ease into this rhythm, closing your eyes to relax into the night where history breathes, waiting for another day to unfold amidst its ancient stones.